Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at chapter 20 of the Road to Latin textbook and look at the first story in it called Lucius at Aulus. Now this is the first story in chapter 20, so like I always tell you, the first thing you have to do is really make sure that you're locked in on the vocab. This chapter is going to be really tricky to read through and translate if you don't know what the words are. So your first step, to make a Quizlet, or you can take one of mine. I have up here my Nova Latin site. I have Quizlets, I have the vocab, derivatives, everything you need. But make something or use something that you can practice so you can get really good at these new words and feel comfortable with them. The next thing you got to do, since it's the first story in this chapter, is you need to look at the grammar. So this chapter's grammar is talking about future tense, or at least part of it. So it's a different tense. It's a new idea. It's going to be tricky until you actually look at it and kind of work your way through. So that's, again, a top item you have to do is just look at the grammar so you can start to figure out what's going on in this story. At some point, you need to dive into the grammar. And like I said, if you want to use my website, I have everything there for you. I have YouTube videos. I have notes, grammar notes, practice problems, whatever it is you might need. Use whatever you're comfortable with, but just know there's stuff there for you if you really want to progress forward with it. The other thing I would recommend on my site is I have 2 videos on the future tense, right? So if you're looking for YouTube videos, instead of me explaining all of it here, I've already done that with 2 videos on future tense active voice and future tense passive voice. It covers kind of all of future tense, which is not entirely what we need in this chapter, because this chapter is only half of it, but it'll get you in the right spot. So they're there for you if you need it. If you want a video, something quick to watch, and get the gist of it, you'll be fine. But either way, find a way to get the grammar kind of under control along with the vocab, and then you'll be in a really good spot to read this story. And then, of course, you want to read it, right? Find someone to read it to, practice your speaking and pronunciation, find someone who can read it back to you so you can work on your listening skills. These are all the things you want to develop so that you reach a point. If you have to read it once, twice, 3 times, right? Keep reading it until you hit a point where you're not looking every word up and you don't have to try to figure out what all the grammar is, that it kind of washes over you and you naturally get it and you're picking up how this all works. That's the place you want to be. But before we dive into that and translate the story, I do want to give you a quick overview of the grammar just because we are about to look at the story. And this is not comprehensive, but it kind of gets you at least on the right track. You should be using the textbook to really dive in. But it's on future tense. Remember we said the word tense comes from tempus, which means time. So all we're doing is we're changing the timing of when something happened. So the first, 18 or whatever it was chapters, we're living in present tense. Things were happening right now in the moment. Last chapter, we talked about imperfect tense, things that were happening in the past. And now we're coming to future tense, things that haven't happened yet, right? So they're talking about events that will happen. They just haven't happened yet. And we translate it in English with the word will. That's the most common way to do the future tense, right? This will happen. So the trick to future tense is that there's 2 different ways to do it, and it depends on the conjugation or group of your verb. In this chapter, we're only looking at first and second conjugation verbs. So in other words, the ones where the infinitive, the second part, ends in either are, which would make it first group or first conjugation, or a long ere, which would make it second conjugation. All right. For third and fourth, you do something different. Stay tuned. We'll talk about that later. You don't need it quite yet. But the process is to go to the infinitive, right, for a first or second conjugation verb. Go to the infinitive, drop the re. That gives you what we call the present stem. Then you add on an infix, which is exactly what we did with imperfect tense. So this should feel familiar. The present, imperfect, and future go together, right? They're all basically doing the same thing. But with future, instead of adding a ba, which is what we did, the ba for imperfect, we're adding what's sometimes called the baby talk endings, bo, bb, bb, boo. Okay. You add these into the middle of your word. They're an infix. And then you put on your endings of st, mus, to son. So the only difference here is that you're not using the m ending, right? So bo has an o on the end of it. So you just leave it alone as that. But for the rest of them, right, the 4 bis in the middle, you add st, mus, tis, and the bu at the end, you put an nt. And if you go passive voice, you do the exact same thing. You just change the endings, right? So r, ristur, mur, mini, ntur. But the process doesn't change. Okay, so it would look like this, and this is just sort of a quick snapshot. But you have on the left active voice, 2 different verbs, first and second conjugation. So parare, to prepare, you have parabo, bis, bit, and down the line. And then you have a second conjugation verb, sedere, right? Sede, bo, bis, bit. And it means I will do this, right? I will prepare, you will prepare, I will sit, you will sit. That's future tense. And on the right-hand side, you have the passive voice version. So if you had portare, to carry, you'd say portabor, beris, bitor, right? Just going down the line, you're adding the ristur, and so on endings. So you're changing it from I will carry to I will be carried, and you will be carried. If you use movere, the verb to move, you're saying I will be moved and you will be moved. It's the same idea, you're just in passive voice. So this is a very quick snapshot of it. You have to dive in more detail on your own, but this is either a refresher if you've already looked at it, or something to get your brain moving so that you'll be primed to go look it up on your own. But if you haven't done any of the grammar, I would recommend that you pause the video here. Don't watch the rest because you might not understand it. You could if you wanted to, but it's better off if you go look up the grammar and then come back after you've had a chance to kind of read and reread and do that method and just make sure you're on the right track. But if you're in that place and you feel good, let's take a look at the story. So it starts today with hodie, today, right? Then you have Lucius et Aulus in horto cum Cornelio et Tullia sedet. So today, Lucius and Aulus are sitting, sedet, present tense, they're sitting in the garden with Cornelia and Tullia, right? With Cornelius and Tullia, rather, with their mom and dad. Then you have parvi pueri ibi luda. So the little boys, the small boys, parvi pueri is your subject. They are playing there, right? Luda is just present tense. So they're playing in the garden. You can see that in the picture to the right. This is the picture from, the chapter from the textbook. Then you have cras mei filii, Romam ambulabo, inquit Cornelius. So tomorrow, my boys, my sons, right? Mei filii, it's vocative. He says ambulabo. Here we have something different. You can tell by the bo ending, it's future tense. So he's not saying I am walking or I was walking, but I will walk. And it kind of makes sense because he started his line with cross, which means tomorrow. So he's talking about something that hasn't happened yet. So that's why you have the future tense, and you can see how you form it, right? It's ambulare, the verb to walk, and you get rid of the re, add bo, and you're in future tense, right? It means I. So he's saying, I will walk Romam to Rome. Remember, when you have the name of a city, you don't need a preposition. The accusative case with Romam means it's toward Rome or to Rome. So Cornelius says, he's saying, hey, tomorrow I'm walking to Rome, right? I will walk to Rome. None tu quoque Luci ambulabis. So surely you too, Lucius, will walk. Ambulabis means you will walk. The none means he's expecting the answer to be yes, right? Then you have ego libenter ambulabo, si Aulus ambulabit, responded Lucius. So the two boys are sitting there, Lucius and Aulus, right? And one of them, he gets asked, Lucius, are you going to walk to the city? And he says, I will walk, right? Libenter, I'll gladly go, right? I will walk, meaning to the city, if Aulus will walk. So there's a kind of condition here, right? If Aulus ambulabit. So this is giving you repetition on the different endings. You have ambulo, ambulabis, and ambulabit in these two lines, right? I will walk, you will walk, he, she, it will walk. Then you have respondet Lucius, responds Lucius. And notice respondet is present because he's saying that in the present moment, whereas ambulabit is future because in his actual speech, he's talking about an event that hasn't happened yet. Then you have the next part. You have bene, which means good, right? Cras nos Romam ambulabimus, clama Aulus. So tomorrow we, nos is your subject, we will walk. Ambulabimus, the bi makes it future tense. We will walk to Rome. Clama Aulus, shouts Aulus. Then you have quo cras ambulabitus, rogat Tullia. So tomorrow, where to, right? Quo, where will you walk, right? Ambulabitis, right? And then you have the response. It says, pueri Romam ambulabunt, responded Cornelius. So the mom says, where are you going to walk tomorrow? Where will you walk? And Cornelius responds, the boys will walk ambulabunt to Rome, right? Romam. So in this one paragraph, they gave you the same verb, which is why I like this book, the repetition. They gave you the verb to walk, and they gave you all 6 versions of it in future tense. You have ambulo, ambulabis, ambulabit, ambulabimus, ambulabitus, and ambulabunt. So I will walk, you will walk, and down the line, right? They're just talking about what they're going to do tomorrow. So it's meant to be repetitive. Then we go to the next part, and you have quid aule Romae videbis, rogat Tullia. So what Aulus is vocative, she's talking to him. She says, what Aulus will you see? Videbis, right? Future tense, the bi makes it future, and the s means you. So what will you see in Rome? Romae is locative. It means in the city of Rome, right? Remember, locative, when you're dealing with names of cities, in first declension anyway, it can look like a genitive ending with that ae. It just means in Rome. Asks Tullia. Then you have the response. You have forum Romanum videbo, responded Aulus. So Aulus responds, I will see, right, videbo, I will see the Roman forum. And notice what the book's doing here. You had a first conjugation verb in the first paragraph, ambulare. Now you're getting a second conjugation verb, videre. So it's all going to be seeing. I will see, you will see, and down the line to give you the repetition. So he says, I will see the Roman forum. Fortasse ludos in circo maximo videbimus, clamat Lucius. So perhaps we will see, videbimus, the games, the ludos, right, in the Circus Maximus, in Circo Maximo. So he's hoping to see some chariot races is basically the idea, right, the games. Lucius shouts. Then you have certe inquit Cornelius, pueri ludos Romanos videbunt Tullia, quod nunc Romae ludi celebrantur. So you have Cornelius says, certainly, right? Certainly, meaning they're going to do this. Certainly the pueri, the boys, videbunt, they will see the ludos Romanos, the Roman games, Tullia, right? So he's talking to Tullia, and he says, certainly the boys are going to see the games, because now Romae, in Rome, again, it's locative, now in Rome, ludi celebrantur. Now we have something different here. Celebrantur is not future tense, right? There's no bo, be, boo, anything like that. It's just normal present tense, but it's passive. So he's saying right now, and the nunc word gives away that it's present, right? You wouldn't use the word now if you're talking about something that is going to happen in the future. So he says now the games are being celebrated, celebrantur again is passive, in Rome. So he says they will see the games because the games are being celebrated right now, right? They're ongoing. Then you have ludos amo, clamat Lucius. I love, rather, present tense, just active voice, amo, I love the games, the ludos, shouts Lucius, right? Adultus ego auriga ero. So I, adultus, as an adult or kind of grown up, it almost seems like when I'm an adult, but adult me, right? Ero, I will be, right? Ero is the future tense of the verb esse. I will be an auriga, a charioteer. So he's saying, I will be a charioteer when I grow up, is kind of what he means, right? Adultus, when I'm grown. Then you have a response, tu auriga eris et ego poeta ero, fabulas de aurigis narrabo clama Aulus. So Lucius says, I want to be a charioteer, right? I'm going to be a charioteer. I will be a charioteer when I grow up. Then you have Aulus shouts. He says, you will be tu eris, right? You will be auriga, a charioteer, and I will be ego ero, right? I will be a poeta, a poet. So he says, you go be a charioteer, and I will be a poet. And he says, narrabo, I will tell. Here's our future tense again. The bow gives it away. So I will tell stories, fabulas, about charioteers, de aurigis. So he says, you go be a charioteer, and I'll be a poet telling stories about charioteers, right? They're just talking about what they will be when they grow up. Then you continue, you have crossne eret Marcus Romae, rogat Tullia. So the mom Tullia says, tomorrow, right? And it's the any on crossne means she's asking a yes or no question where she's really not sure what the answer will be. So she says, tomorrow, will Marcus be? So eret means he will be, and Marcus is your subject. So tomorrow, will Marcus be in Rome? Romae, right? Locative, asked Tullia. So this is their other son. They're saying, is he going to be in Rome? Then you have Romae erat multiviri et feminae quod ludi celebrantur. Right? So this is the response from Cornelius. He says, in Rome, there will be erant, multi-weary, many men and women at feminae, right? There will be many men and women because the ludi, the games, are being celebrated. So she says, hey, will Marcus be there? And he says, well, there's going to be a lot of people there because the games are being celebrated. Fortasse Marcus ibi erit, responded Cornelius. Perhaps, fortasse, Marcus will be there, ibi erit, responded Cornelius, right? Cornelius responds. So he says, a lot of people are going to be there. Maybe Marcus will, right? Maybe we'll see him. Then you have fortasse Marcum videbimus clamant pueri et in domicilium properant. So perhaps we will see, videbimus, that's future tense, right? We will see Marcus, he's the direct object, shout the boys. And properant, they hasten or hustle in domicilium, into the house, right? Into the domicile, if you will. So they get excited, they run to the house, they're saying, hey, maybe we'll see, the older brother, Marcus. Then you have nonne nos quoque Romam ambulabimus, rogat Publius et Servius. So there's two other boys. You have Lucius and Aulus, who are older. They're sitting on the bench in this picture. And then running around the background, you have the younger boys, Publius and Servius. And they say, surely, right? Nonne means surely. So surely we, nos ambulabimus, we will walk to, quoque, we also will walk, or we too will walk to Rome. Ask Publius and Servius, right? So the two younger boys say, hey, we're going to go too, right? And then you get a response, right? You have vos parvi pueri domi manebitus a Tullia doce bimini, respondet Cornelius. So you all, small boys, parvi pueri, right? You all little boys, You will stay, manebatus, there's your future tense verb, you will stay at home. Domi, right? Locative, you're going to stay at home. You will be taught, right? Doke bimini, here's your future tense. The bi gives away his future. The mini ending is passive. So not you will teach, but you will be taught by Tullia. Tullia, there's your ablative of agent because we have a passive voice verb. Response Cornelius. It says you're going to stay here and you're going to be taught by Tullia. Then it continues. You have two Tullia, a parvis pueris servaberis, right? Or servaberis. So you, Tullia, you will be protected, right? Servaberis. It's future. And here there is a note you'll see in the grammar for this chapter. When you're doing future tense passive with that second person singular, the you form, we switch the bi to a be. It's not a major deal. Look in the grammar notes. It'll explain why it's servaberis there, right? But it says you will be protected by the small boys, right? So you're going to teach them and they'll watch over you, right? Servare, they'll protect you. Dona Roma portabuntur. So he's saying gifts, portabuntur, they will be carried. It's the bu makes it future, the ntur makes it passive. So it's a future passive verb. So dona as your subject, gifts will be brought or will be carried from Rome, Roma. Remember when you have the name of a city in the ablative case, it means from. So gifts will be brought from Rome. Right? He's saying, I'm going to bring you gifts. Fortasse me filii parvi, Tullia lauda bimini. So he says, perhaps my young or my small sons, me filii parvi, my little boys, right? He says, perhaps you will be praised, right? The mini, mini is passive, second person plural. So you will be, you all will be something, or you are all something, I guess. The bi makes a future, so you will be. So he says, you will all be praised. Tullia, there's your ablative of agent again, because you have a passive voice verb. You will be praised by Tullia. So you say, maybe you'll be praised, right? She'll say how great of a job you did. And then he says, tum bonis pueris dona dabo. Then I will give. Dabo is active voice. So he says, maybe, your mom will say that you guys were great, right? You'll be praised by her. Then I will give dona. I will give gifts. It's neuter, right? Neuter accusative plural. And you give, remember, with verbs of giving, you give something to someone. You're looking for a dative. It's bonis pueris. I will give gifts to the good boys. So he says, hey, if mom says you did a good job, maybe I'll give you gifts. A publio et servio bene servabor, clamat Tullia, right? So Tullia shouts, I will be protected, servabor, right? Future passive. I will be protected well by Publius and Servius. There's your ablative of agent. She's kind of joking like, oh, don't worry, the little kids, they'll take care of me, right? I'll be taken care of or protected well, served well by them. Boni eramus clamant Publius et Servius. So the boys say, we will be, eramus, we will be good, right? Shout Publius and Servius. And then you have this final line. You have a Tullia vero laudabimur, porta multa dona. So we will be praised, laudabimur, right? MUR makes it passive, right? The BI makes it future. So not we pray or will praise, but we will be praised a Tullia, by Tullia, right? Truly, right? Don't worry about it. We will be praised by Tullia. So then at the end, they give an imperative here, a command, porta. This is the singular positive imperative. It means bring or carry, right? It comes from portare. So they're saying bring multa dona, bring many gifts. So he says, hey, if you're good, mom says you're good, I'll bring you gifts. They said, don't worry about it. We're definitely going to be praised by Tullia. Bring lots of gifts, right? Because we're going to be good. So it's setting the stage for the dad to leave with some of his older boys and leave some of the younger boys behind. Okay, that's sort of the idea here. So hopefully this makes some sense. You're getting a nice mix of future tense verbs. And again, it would be a little tricky to kind of work through this if you don't know the grammar. So make sure you feel good about it. But you are getting a lot of repetition, and hopefully you're catching on the pattern of what future tense verbs look like and how we're translating them into English. But if you have any questions at all, anything you're not sure of in my translation, feel free to put a comment below and I'll help you however I can or give you advice or push you in the right direction so you can do it. But otherwise, just keep reading it. Again, do read and reread, whatever you need to do. You're trying to get to a spot where you can read this without too much trouble and feel really good about it. Good luck.